Aloha Wednesday, 3 days to race day. Woo! And it's breakfast with Bob.
Welcome everybody to day 3, Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Huggo's on the Rocks for the 10th year in a row. We are brought to you by HOKA, Polar, UCAN, Velofix, Normatec, Active Canyon, Form Goggles, Amp Human. Our championship edition will be a 4-season resort, Hualalai. I'm very proud. Our next 2 guests, we've been working with them at the Challenge Athletes Foundation, I think since Rudy was 8, and since Roderick was about the same age. Give it up for Rudy Garcia-Tolson and Roderick Sewell.
Thank you.
How you boys?
Doing well. How about you, Bob?
We are awesome. Everything is going really, really well. So, Rudy, as somebody who lost his legs when you made the decision.
Sure.
6 years old, you had pterygium syndrome, legs weren't ever going to straighten out. How hard was that decision for you to make? Because you made it when you were 6 years old to have your legs amputated.
It was an easy decision. It was a decision to gain my mobility and my freedom, I would say. So having my legs amputated by choice at the age of 5 years old was a black and white decision. It was either, cut these things off so I can go out and play, or I would have to sit around and wait and not do much like my brothers and sisters.
Well, and at that time, Rudy, you were basically on stilts,
yes.
Right? When you were on prosthetic legs, and your mom would call Michael Davidson, the prosthetist, and say, hey, when's my son going to run? He's got prosthetic legs now. When's he going to walk and play with the other kids? And he kept saying, lady, he's on stilts. He'll be on a walker, mainly in a wheelchair. He will never run because kids who were double above knee amputees without knees never ran, right?
It was unheard of at the time. In the early 90s, a double above the knee amputee. It was unheard of running or doing any type of adaptive sports. Walking was, a luxury. So most people who were in the same situation, they would be able to walk with a walker, maybe 20, 30 minutes a day. So being able to run and do sports as a double above the knee amputee, it was not normal. Like, it wasn't around. So right. My prosthetist, who's still my prosthetist at now, Michael Davidson in Loma Linda, he realized that my mom, being very persistent in the way she is,
yeah, she was.
He's gonna have to figure out a way to get me to attempt to run or something down there, because they had no running legs, they had no running blades for kids. It was all in, it wasn't around.
You had legs given by the state that were basically held together with bungee cords.
Basic insurance, spot legs. Yes, I was very low insurance my parents had. I grew up in a trailer park. My dad worked at a truck stop, so we didn't have the best insurance. So the legs that I got when I first got out of the hospital, they were heavy, they were uncomfortable, but they were legs. So that was something that was the cool side.
Step up.
It was a step up. So these legs that I got, I probably broke them at least 50 times throughout my first year of using them.
The really crappy ones.
The crappy ones. And I remember...
Because you were trying to be a kid.
I was just jumping off of walls, landing on my knees, putting sand in there, just doing everything that kids do, hiding my candy in my legs. Yeah. So, it got to the point where, I was going back to Michael Davidson almost on a weekly basis. And, my mom, being the smart person that she is, she made a VHS home video of me just being a kid. And she sent it to this company at the time called Flexfoot, who was now Oser. And they seen this video of this little 7-year-old kid just wanting to be active, but really was being held back by my components. And so they ended up sending me a new pair of legs, and they were titanium, they were carbon fiber. I remember, to me, it felt like I was going from like a Pinto car to a Ferrari, like overnight. So it was just being able to get that high tech prosthetics and really begin my sporting career. That was it.
What I loved was when I talked to Michael Davidson, your prosthetist, and asked him to tell me that story. He basically said, listen, I kept telling his mom, lady, he's on stilts, he'll never run, he'll never walk. And finally, I told her, why don't you come to the office and bring your kid, just so I could tell her face to face that this kid will never run. And he says, when he walked into the waiting room, you were doing a handstand on the walker, and he figured, if this kid wants to run, I better figure it out.
Absolutely. It was growing up with a double above the knee amputee, I never viewed my legs as a disability. I never saw myself as someone who was disabled. I just kind of just took it for what it was and continued on. It was never a situation where I felt sad for myself. I felt sorry for myself. It was just something where, it's just what it was. And in any situation I was in, whether I was using a walker to get around, I was, just being a kid. That's just what it was.
So, Roderick, you were born in San Diego, and your mom had a good job, right? And so you, early on, you got prosthetics, like walking prosthetics. But there was a point where you weren't going to be getting higher-end prosthetics. And your mom, similar to Rudy's mom was the one, if it wasn't for Sandy being so persistent and putting that little video together, and there was a point with this video that she sent to all the top prosthetic companies, where Rudy's holding this leg and going, this is a piece of crap, and throws it on the ground. I need something better. And that's where it all started.
Yes.
And for you, your mom, because of the job she had, she didn't have the insurance to cover getting you the legs that you needed to be a kid. So what did she do?
So my mom, she was able to afford the basic prosthetics, but when it came to getting more and more prosthetics, and as I got older and got bigger and had more, it got a little too expensive. So my mom filed for unemployment. And
wait. So she had to become unemployed.
Yeah.
And you guys moved into the St. Vincent de Paul Center, a homeless center, just so that you could get legs.
Pretty much, she made that sacrifice so that I could walk, and it was the best thing she could have did for me.
And were you? I mean, because here you are going from sort of a normal life, living in an apartment, and nice things are going on. Next thing you know, you're living in a shelter. You were what, 7, 8 years old?
So when I had my first pair of prosthetics, I was 3, and my mom at that time was still doing well. By the time she gave up her job, I was 7. Okay. And this is when I was growing a little older, needed better legs, and we were bouncing back and forth between apartments. And by the time I hit 7 to 8 years old is when it just got too much, and
moved into a homeless shelter.
Yes, sir.
And that's pretty scary, being in a big room with bunk beds and all sorts of other people around.
My mom was very, like you said, like Miss Sandy, she was persistent. You know, she knew that even though we were in the shelter, nobody was going to mess with us. She was very, she was a tough woman. But we were around some individuals that you would worry about. We had some people who were junkies,
right,
pedophiles, everything. So we just, it was a rough situation. And the fact that she put us through that for my legs so that I could walk and be normal is amazing.
So when did you two guys connect? Because I think Rudy was not quite 12 yet, and you were 8 or something, right?
Yeah.
We met in San Diego. I think we met through, Miss Tabby King.
From CAF.
Found out that there was this young gentleman who was a double above the knee amputee in San Diego. And at the time, I grew up in Los Angeles area, but I'd come down to San Diego for almost every weekend for a race. And I think it was at a water ski clinic, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And here's Roderick and his mom pulling up in the car, and finally got to meet Roderick. I remember he stepped out of the car with his colorful legs, and it was like staring at myself in a mirror almost, because it was like the first time I've ever seen another kid who was like me. When you grow up with the physical disability in the United States, a lot of times you feel like you're by yourself. You feel like you're the only one, and that's kind of how it felt like for my first few years of being an amputee, until I met Roderick, and it was like, all right, well, there's more of us. Game on, let's do it. And I would say right away it turned into it was an instant friendship, because like we understood what we go through on a daily basis. When it comes to waking up and putting our legs on and doing all that type of stuff. But also it was more about, all right, I got someone who is just like me. Let's see how good he is. Let's see how fast he can run. Let's see how fast he can swim. It turned into an instant competition. Everything we did.
So, and Rudy at that point, you was already on the path to becoming a really, really good swimmer. You started out swimming young, and by the age of 16, you made your first Paralympic team. You went 232 for 200 IM.
Yeah.
Don't try that at home. That is really, really hard. Won your first gold medal. Ended up going to 3 more games. And as somebody who was petrified of the water, right? This guy couldn't. You didn't take
my
showers.
Favorite story.
You did, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. It's hard for people watching at home seeing how big this guy is, but Rudy would take Roderick. Roderick would wrap his arms around Rudy's neck, and they'd go out in the ocean, and Rudy would swim him around because he was a little peanut. He was tiny. He was a little guy.
Little chunky peanut.
A little chunky guy. But how scared was he of the water?
Oh, it was a life or death thing. It was no enjoyment. It was I'm gonna hold on to Rudy's neck as tight as possible. And hope he can breathe, and that's what it was. And it was a thing where we go out, I push him on the side of the wall in the pool, and then we go out to the middle of the pool, and then we go back to the stairs, and that was a success. That was good. And then little did we know Roderick would really take swimming a little bit more serious, and he got connected with Alan Vissard in San Diego, and it was actually cool because Roderick actually got to go to the 2008 Paralympic Games as a spectator.
So you were in Beijing watching him medal.
He was in Beijing. I actually came to speak to his group that he was with the day before my competition. I was super pissed that I had to go do this. I wanted to be in my zone. My coach says, you got to go do this.
Headphones on.
Headphones on. So I go and talk to these guys, and it was cool because I got to say what's up to Roderick. And then the next day was my 200 individual medley, and as I had a great day, had a great race, and it was cool that I got to look up in the stand and see his group up there, and it's a cool experience.
And for you, watching this guy who was like you become an elite swimmer, that led you to once Alan Voisard, who probably doesn't get enough credit for what he's done with our challenge athletes in terms of teaching our athletes how to swim, but he recognized in you something maybe you didn't see
at all. He thought I could be a Paralympic swimmer, and I was
right from the beginning,
from the get-go.
And you were just trying not to drown.
Yes, I was just trying to learn how to swim. And then going to see Rudy and see him medal and be in his zone and be in his element, that kind of made me decide, okay, this is what I want to do. Seeing my friend actually come up and be this, world-renowned athlete is phenomenal. And the fact that I could be that and see that for myself was it's pretty cool.
Well, and Rude, at the time when we first started Challenge Athletes Foundation back in '94, there was a philosophy back then with charity. Charity was all about sympathy and violin music and feeling sorry. And the original photos that we took of you in front of the Mission Bay Bridge in San Diego with your hands on your hips, looking at the camera, low angle from the amazing Tim Antoine were, what are you looking at? I'm here. You give me a piece of equipment, I will kick your butt. It was power. It wasn't about don't feel sorry for me. Give me something I can use and get the hell out of the way.
Don't feel sorry for me. Don't look at me differently because I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna kick your ass.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that attitude that he had, did that help you?
Definitely rubbed off. Rudy's always been a tough guy. Everybody knows him as one of the toughest guys in Paralympics, and around the world, he's known, especially to amputees. He's been a pioneer for a lot
of
the
Pied Piper.
Yeah,
people have followed him
without a doubt. And being his friend for almost 20 years now has helped push me and drive me, and look where we're at.
Exactly. So Rudy, over time, you've done some. You were living in Olympic Training Center.
Yes.
You're going to 4 straight Paralympics. In the meantime, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we sort of forced you to watch all these Ironman videos all the time, and you knew about this place.
Well, I grew up in triathlon.
Yes.
And that's something that I'm just very, very grateful for because it's such an awesome sport. But big thanks to you, Babbitt, because if it wasn't getting connected with you and CAF, I would be probably playing baseball or some lame sport, So I'm glad I'm in with triathlon.
I'm glad you're in a real sport.
I'm a real sport. These guys, all the legendary guys, Dave Scott and Scott Tenley, I've grown up with these guys.
Right.
And I've done triathlons with these guys. And to be able to say that, I've grown up in triathlon is, I wouldn't have had it any other way. So yes, 10 years ago we were here. I was tempted to be the first double above the amputee to finish an Ironman, and so I was here in Hawaii. I had a great swim. My bike was still the biggest challenge for me.
Well, when you ride the bike, you don't have quads or hamstrings. You're just using glute muscles.
I ride
on
a normal
bike.
stand-up bike. It's my power ratio compared to an able-bodied person is 10 or 20%. What I'm getting off of just my legs. So the bike for me was, we knew it was going to be the biggest challenge in an Ironman. So I was on the Queen K for about 9.5 hours, and I realized that I was going to miss the bike cutoff at about mile 100. So coming into transition, I knew my day was over. I missed it by about 15 minutes, so it was a tight day. It was a close day. But that's the nature of the sport, and that's why everybody loves it, because it doesn't matter if you have 2 legs or
wheelchair, whatever
it is. The cutoff time is what it is. And
so you're good with that.
I love it.
Yeah, my feeling is early on when we first got hand cycles into the Ironman, a lot of people were like, well, that time on the bike should be different because it's hand cycles. And I'm like, no, it needs to be
the same.
level playing field.
Absolutely.
Right? You want to do
100%.
5:30 in the afternoon.
5:30 in the afternoon.
So you miss the cutoff time.
Yeah.
I happened to be there at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't our happiest moment.
No.
But you called a few days later and said, I need to get back on a horse. And you went to Ironman Arizona 5 weeks later. Yeah. And 1606?
1606. I was determined. I put in a semi amount of work going into Kona. I did Wildflower. I did Hanu. I did a few half Ironmans going into Hawaii, and I don't like failure, and really Kona, if you look, I was really my first time where I experienced some type of failure.
That's really true.
I went to 2 Paralympics. I got 2 gold medals. I went to 70.3 World Championships in Clearwater in 2006, and I finished in like 7 hours, thinking this Ironman thing is a joke. It's easy, what everybody's complaining about. Little did I know, Kona is a little bit different story, and so. It was something where I needed to redeem myself. I wasn't happy with myself, and I needed to do something. So on my flight home, I went on the internet on the plane to look up when the next Ironman was. Where was the closest next Ironman? And of course, it was Tempe, Arizona, 2009, and that's I went over there and got connected with Muddy Waters, a great coach who really kind of took over. I went to live with Muddy, and he took away all my hot Cheetos.
This is a kid who lived on hot Cheetos. The first thing Muddy did was empty your car of every hot Cheeto there was. You were in bed at 6 o'clock at night. Took your computer away.
I had to live like a triathlete.
You had to live like a monk.
A little weird,
but he finished. He passed 140 people in a marathon.
It was a good day. The goal here, especially for Roderick, we're just getting to that finish line. Once we get to that finish line, we do it the first time, then we could look back and say, how can we do it better? How can we do it faster?
So as somebody who you missed the cutoff time back here 10 years ago, you could be thinking, gosh, I wasn't the first double above knee amputee. I don't want anybody to do it. But here's your buddy who has a chance to do this, and you're crewing for him.
Absolutely.
And you've been watching his training and watching what he's been doing. He rode out to Javi the other day, ran through the energy lab and back. And Rod, talk a little bit about how you're feeling leading into this race. You did a half just a couple weeks ago.
I feel, I feel prepared. I feel ready. I feel like the work has been put in. And I've been working with Rudy, Brian Hammond back in New York, Earl Walden. We've all kind of set the plan and focused on breaking the race down piece by piece.
Okay.
And that's going to help me kind of stay in tune, because we talked about this last night. If you think about the whole race at once,
it's too much.
It's way too much. And I find that
it's overwhelming.
Very overwhelming. So I think with Rudy by my side, I think we're gonna get this done.
What I love is that you're also a Paralympic hopeful for next year in the 100-meter breaststroke.
100-meter breaststroke.
Breaststroke, that takes you what? A minute?
My fastest is a minute 31.
So a minute 31, and now you're doing an event that could take 17 hours.
Yes, yeah. So hopefully this helps with the breaststroke.
What are you thinking?
I definitely built a lot of my endurance from swimming. I love running. I've always been kind of not a distance runner, but I've always ran.
Right.
I got my first pair of running blades from CAF when I was 10 years old. And my mom was actually the first person I raced. And I think she let me win. I'm almost pretty sure she did. But once I got my first pair of blades, you give a kid some running blades for the first time and give them the ability to run at 10 years old, they're going to keep them on. They're going to wear them everywhere. Yeah. So that freedom, having that and being able to be here now and kind of harness that is pretty nice.
And that, like I said, Rudy was the first kid we worked with, and you weren't long after that, and now there's hundreds of kids around the world, probably approaching thousands, who've received grants from Challenge Athletes Foundation and who look at you guys as role models. So when you're racing, that. Everybody's got you on the Ironman tracker going, where's Roderick at? Is that pressure or is that a positive?
No, that's pushing me for sure. Like the fact that, because Rudy and I, when we were young, we were the only kids we knew.
Right.
Like when he saw me, I saw him, and then we were like, oh, that's what we look like.
Look it, we're brothers. You guys do look alike.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
They actually do call him Rudy a lot.
People always call me Rudy, and I'm like,
they just look at the legs and they say, oh, Rudy. Hey.
It's pretty funny, but we have, like you said, we have so many kids that are coming up now, and adults and children that are going through the same thing. Right. And so if I can finish this race and inspire them to say, okay, anything truly is possible. I can do whatever I want to do if I'm given the right gear.
Right.
That's a big win.
I love that. And so, Rude, to watch this guy and watch his path, you've got to be proud, almost like an older brother.
We've done all right. I'd say we've had a pretty good few years, but I think we're just getting started still, Bob. I think triathlon is gonna be a great avenue for Roderick, and even a little bit of distance running. Being able to run a 1:37 half marathon is pretty solid.
Which you did at Oceanside, ran a 1:37 half. And
so it's gonna be exciting to see how see him finish here in Kona and then continue on to hopefully make the Paralympics next year in Tokyo. So
all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Roderick, good luck out there on Saturday. Bob. Have a great time.
Thank you,
and
Bob.
thank you, Bob. I just want to say, Bob, thank you very much for everything that you do. I've been here at the regular show, at the show, and I've been able to watch the last few days, and I just want to say thank you for everything you do for triathlon. Thank you for everything you've done for me. You're like a father to me, so thank you.
more like a grandfather. How about a round of applause for Rudy Garcia-Tolson and Roderick Sewell, Poncho Man. Take us out.
It's Aloha Wednesday, 3 days to the race day. And it's breakfast with Bob.
And Poncho Man, everybody.